So without delay, I'm going to jump right into introducing our first case presentation of the day, which will be done by Professor Kristen Labazzo. She's an assistant professor of professional practice in the Department of Biomedical Engineering here at Rutgers. And I think many of you, if not most, got to see all the wonderful things that are happening in her lab in the demo session before. It's really exciting stuff. So she is going to tell you more about that. And without further ado, I will hand the podium over to Professor Kristen Labazzo.
It is a pleasure to be here today and inspire your young minds. I'm going to talk about engineering immersion and how we utilize the patient perspective and environment in our research. And as most of you saw, we explained that to you during the demos. I usually give a 45-minute talk about me and my career path, so I will try to do this quickly. I've loved science my entire life, ever since I was a child. I thought I might want to be a vet or a chemist. I had the chemistry sets for Christmas. I always asked, the microscope. I had all the fun toys. I grew up in Union. I'm a Jersey girl, born and bred. I haven't left the state. And then I went to Caldwell College and got a bachelor's degree in chemistry, and then came to Rutgers for my PhD, which I thought was going to be in chemistry. I had never even heard of biomedical engineering before, so talk about being a late bloomer, until I came to Rutgers and I saw an advertisement for a talk about tissue engineering and artificial artery. And I thought, oh my God, this is the coolest field in the world. I have to learn more about this. And I switched into biomedical engineering, best decision I ever made. So I started my career in industry. I got my PhD and I went right into work. And I played many roles there. I did biomaterials. I worked with placental-derived stem cells. And then I decided I wanted to get an MBA because I wanted to learn the business side as well as the science. And then I came back into academia. I've always been interested in mentoring. When I was in industry, I ran the summer internship program. So I was always vested in developing the next generation of young science minds. So being in academia is great, but because of my industry background, this is why I'm a professor of professional practice. I bring a lot of my industry knowledge and practical experience to the classroom, and that is what I am teaching, and that's related to the work that I'm going to talk about today. So some of you might, like I said, I didn't know what a biomedical engineer was until I was in my 20s. So very briefly, a biomedical engineer uses engineering expertise to analyze and solve problems in biology and medicine, and basically providing an overall enhancement of healthcare. And it is not just one thing. It is artificial organs, it's tissue engineering, it's stem cells, it's devices, it's new sensors, it's better imaging techniques to maybe detect cancer earlier, right? All of this, the common thread though with engineering is it's helping people. And you can have a career anywhere. You can, I don't know which screen to point at, there's many of them. You can work in manufacturing, engineering, you could work at a company like Johnson & Johnson, you could work in the government, you could work for the Food and Drug Administration, you could work for NASA. So, public health, if you're interested in policy, you can go into healthcare policy. So really with engineering, use this. With engineering, biomedical engineering, you could go anywhere with that degree. And it makes it a great field because it's not only one of the highest paid engineering jobs, but it's a career that gives back to society by helping people. So no matter what area of biomedical engineering you go into, there is a patient at the end of it, and that's what makes it a very rewarding engineering field. So this idea of immersion, which is basically instruction based on extensive exposure to surrounding conditions relevant to the object of study. Basically, biomedical engineers do amazing research, and we create very innovative therapies and devices that are life-changing. However, most researchers work behind the scenes. You're in your lab, you're doing your research, and you're not really interacting with the end user of what you're trying to develop. So that's where the idea of this immersion comes in, because there seems to be a gap between the researcher and the end user. We think as engineers we know what's best, but we haven't actually spoken to the patient and said, what do you want? What are your challenges? What are your limitations? How can we help you? So we've incorporated this immersion-based learning process to bridge that gap between the biomedical engineer and the end user, hopefully to improve the quality of our research and the resulting products. Because research is great, but we want to get products to people to help them, right? So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take the students in biomedical engineering, putting them in environments where the patients are, and then leveraging those creative engineering minds for them to look at the situation differently because they're engineers and they might identify an area of unmet need or improvement that a layperson might not identify. So one of our collaborations is with a facility called Matheny, which is for very severely physically disabled individuals, as I explained to a lot of you in the demos. Most of them are in wheelchairs. A lot of them are nonverbal, and they also have mental disabilities as well. So it's a very challenging group of people to work with. And so the students draw their the inspiration by not only observing the patients, but talking to the caregivers to say, what are your challenges and difficulties working with this patient population? So we started off 3 summers ago, with 13 students. This year, I had over 40 apply for this program. So I need to engineer a way to, to deal with all those students. So what we do is we're taking the voice of the customer into play. And the voice of the customer could be the patient, it could be the doctor that works with them, it could be the teacher, the educator, the physical therapist, the occupational therapist, the aide. So there are a lot of people who are providing the input as to how we can better help this patient population. And they all contribute a different perspective, so we're getting a very well-rounded feedback as to how we can help the patient. And this was very generously featured by Rutgers back in October. They did a really nice write-up of this program. So some of the ideas that have come out of this, you saw in the demos, a shower trolley. So bathing these patients is very difficult. So how do you improve that? So that's something that helps the caregiver and the patient. A lot of the ideas have been wheelchair modifications to improve degree of freedom and mobility, a dynamic neck rest that moves on its own, lateral supports, adjustable supports, because the patients all have so different deformities that it's not a one-size-fits-all. So the more things you can create that have flexibility and adjustment, the better for the people at Matheny. Novel communication devices, because again, they're nonverbal. So how can you improve communication with these people? So that's some of the ideas that have come out of this. Switching gears a little, it seems like several of you know who Eric LeGrand is, and that makes me very happy. But Eric is a little bit of a celebrity in New Jersey, and especially at Rutgers. He was a football player who in October of 2010 was injured during a football game, received a spinal cord injury, and is now a quadriplegic, which means he has no mobility from the neck down. So he is very severely physically disabled, but he's mentally able-bodied. So he is someone that we can work with in a partnership where he can provide us feedback about his direct needs and areas for improvement. So really just a very simple idea for Eric. Eric communicates a lot on his cell phone that he operates with a stylus that he usually keeps in his mouth. And he has found a way to talk with the stylus in his mouth, but it's uncomfortable. It was drying out his throat. His mother was complaining it makes him hard to understand. And then when he wants to sleep or he sneezes or coughs and the stylus drops, he has to rely on a caregiver to retrieve it for him. So really, this is not, we didn't grow this guy in Oregon. We didn't cure his paralysis. But what we did do for him was we went back and we took measurements of his stylus and his wheelchair. The students did a SolidWorks design. They made him a prototype, and they presented him with a stylus holder that he said was life-changing. So this is the idea with some of these patients. We can't cure his paralysis right now. We can't fix the cerebral palsy or the spina bifida, the people at Matheny, but any little incremental improvement to the quality of life you can make for a patient can be life-changing. And we presented this simple, probably, under $1 to 3D print this stylus holder, and it changed his life. So in the future, we would love to expand this idea of immersion to maybe areas of rehabilitation or nursing homes. I would love to see these ideas that are coming out of the Matheny Project actually become products that we can then present to Matheny and actually help the people. And ultimately, it would be, like I said, to create a series of novel products that would benefit not only Matheny, but other patients. So as part of the call to action today, what I hope my talk did was just made you think a little bit differently. Like if you're on the bus and you see someone in a wheelchair on the bus, how did they get on that bus? What if there wasn't a ramp for them to get on the bus? What if you're at a conference and you're in a wheelchair and everyone is standing at high top tables talking and you're down here in your chair and you're looking up at everyone? That's a little bit undignifying, right? If you see a blind person on the street, just look at your world a little differently now when you see some disabled people and think, what could I do to help them?
So, throughout your whole career, have you discovered anything new in the science field or the mathematics field? Any new discovery have you made which you implemented in the real world?
I personally have not made a groundbreaking discovery, but I had a chance to work on an industry on a very exciting technology. I worked on placental stem cells, which stem cells, you know, depending who you talk to, could be an area of controversy and people don't fully understand. But the idea behind these cells is genius because our founder of the company took medical waste. When a woman has a baby, she delivers a placenta. It gets thrown in the garbage, really. And he had this idea, well, wait a second, the placenta develops from the same place as a baby, and clearly a baby is a viable being with lots of different stem cells. Maybe there's some of those cool cells in the placenta too. And then he developed technologies to take the stem cells out of placenta, and that's what we worked on. So that, again, rethinking how you think, taking medical waste and turning it into essentially gold. I thought that idea was genius. So even though it wasn't my idea, I was very honored to have an opportunity to work on that.
What major did you take when you were in college?
So funny enough, I studied chemistry. And then when I came to Rutgers as a doctorate student, I thought I would continue in chemistry. And then I liked chemistry, but I always had this drive towards medicine. And medicinal chemistry wasn't satisfying that desire to do something to help people. And then I discovered this biomedical engineering. But again, the genius behind biomedical engineering is it's so encompassing. I actually did a lot of chemistry for my biomedical degree. I generated new polymers and hydrogels. But then after I made the materials, I then got to further do all the testing. I got to do cell culture experiments. I got to implant them in animals. So I did all the biology testing on a chemistry that I designed and made. So I never lost my chemistry skills, but I just got to apply them into an area that was making devices to help people.
Hi, I wanted to know what advice you could give to these young STEM minds that'll keep them going when times get rough.
Oh my goodness. If I told you I was without challenges, that would be a lie. I've been made to feel bad. I have felt insecure about my work. I've cried. There was an occasional squirt of water. It happens. But you just have to be confident in yourself and just, you know what, it happens to everyone too. It's not just women that, you know, have some of these insecurities. Guys do too. So we just have to move forward and believe in yourself. There are, thanks to events like these, women in STEM is becoming more prominent. I am proud to say that in biomedical engineering, I think we have over 50% of our students are women. So it is a very female-friendly field. It would be nice if our faculty reflected that same percentage. We're getting, but again, the faculty are of a different generation. So my generation, maybe it wasn't over 50%. So we're getting there, but it makes me very happy to see all these female students in the labs getting their PhDs, not just undergraduates, they're going for doctorates. So hopefully those women will then go on to be faculty, and then those numbers can go up too. But just don't give up. You could do anything.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Kristen. That was wonderful.